Welcome everyone to today's webinar, The Future of R22 Equipment Service. My name is Jamey Hale. I will be the presenter today. The outline of today's webinar, we will review the R22 phase out, review reclaim problems, options available to technicians and contractors, what is an R22 replacement, NU-22B product overview, proper system charging, guidelines for NU-22B, ICOR support, and the top 10 ask questions from the Tech to Tech hotline. And at the end of the session, we will have a group question and answer. You can type in your questions in the chat box as the webinar is going on. So the phase out of R22, as you can see, there's this year in 2017, 13 million pounds could be produced, manufactured, and distributed here in the United States. Next year, it'll be 9, 4, and in the year 2020 will be the 100% phase out. So what does that mean? Well, that means the price of 22 is going to keep going up. So on average today, throughout the United States, we're seeing anywhere from $750 to $900 per cylinder for R22. Limited quantities to wholesalers. Some wholesalers only get so many skids on their allocation, and once that's gone, they will not be getting any more. Limited quantities to contractors. Contractors won't be able to go into the supply houses anymore and buy skids at a time. They're going to be limited to how many cylinders they can buy per day or per invoice. Hoarding for critical equipment. Critical equipment is a flooded evaporator system. You'll find this in large industrial, large commercial applications, and that's where R22 needs to go to. Direct expansion systems need to be moved over to a replacement refrigerant. That way there'll be enough R22 for these critical systems that are out in service today, and a financial burden on your customer. So the R22 reclaim problem, EPA published back in 2012 how much R22 was brought back, cleaned up, and resold, and as you can see on the right there, in 2012 was 9.4 million pounds, and it has dropped every year since 2012, and in 2014 it was 7.9 million pounds. So as you can tell, there's not going to be enough reclaimed R22 to offset the deficit of virgin R22. The main problem with the mixing of refrigerants when technicians do that, whether it's inadvertently or they're just not taking care of, watching what they're doing, that's a lot of the problem with reclaim. Mixed refrigerants are very hard to separate and very expensive to destroy. So, we get a lot of calls, can you mix NU-22B with R22? And no is the answer, and I will explain why here later in the presentation. So less R22 than the market, all that is price increase, dirty gas back, price increase, and we really need to start moving over to alternative refrigerants, getting away from R22. So here's some options available to technicians and contractors. You can continue using R22. There's not a problem with that. The pros, no system replacement or conversion necessary. The customer can just keep on going. The cons, it's extremely high refrigerant costs, limited availabilities, and it is an ozone depleter. So if you have customers that don't want an ozone depleting refrigerant in their system anymore, then you'll need to move over to a alternative refrigerant like NU-22B. Replacing all air conditioning refrigeration equipment that runs on 22, the pros, you get new equipment, they're more energy efficient, and they will have a non-ozone depleting refrigerant in that new system. The cons, the financial burden again, the high cost of equipment and installation, restriction on applications. It requires more natural resources to buy new equipment. Converting air conditioning refrigeration equipment to Nu-22B. The pros, you can continue using that equipment. It's a user-friendly conversion process. It's a lower cost than R22. It's a non-ozone depleting refrigerant. The availability is off the charts. We have over 4,000 stocking distributors now. Free training available like we're doing today. You can install your dry charge systems if you still have any in a stock when you replace a condensing unit. That's the time to use Nu-22B. Systems that have leaked out most of the R22 and system repair. For example, if you're replacing a compressor or an evaporator or a condenser, this is the time to move over to Nu-22B. The cons, no HFC blend can be used successfully in a flooded application. And again, that is more on the industrial, large commercial side. So what is a R22 replacement? Well, R22 replacements are HFC blends. They have hydrogen, fluorine, and carbon, no chlorine. None should be mixed with R22. There's a lot of misconception out in the field. It comes from everywhere, and for whatever reason, technicians are told or they believe that you can mix replacements with R22, and that is not recommended by any refrigerant manufacturer. HFCs and blends are refrigerant 125, 134A, 32, and R143A. Those are the 4 good non-chlorinated refrigerants that we as refrigerant manufacturers have to work with. And that's a pretty short list. And there will not be any more developed. We've already moved on to the next generation of refrigerants. So HFC refrigerants, what you see there is what we have to deal with. Using R600, 600A, 601A for mineral or alkyl benzene oil return. If an R22 replacement does not have a hydrocarbon, which that's what those are, then polyester oil is required. Some additional small additions of hydrocarbons do not make blends flammable. So all of our refrigerants, Hot Shot, Nu-22B, One Shot, all have a hydrocarbon in the blend. But it is such a low percent that it makes the refrigerant as formulated a non-flammable refrigerant. It has the same safety classification as R12, R22, R410A. And we strongly encourage reading the charging guidelines. This is the best way that the technician will understand how to properly charge that system. So product overview of Nu-22B. It was launched in 2001. It had early on was running in more industrial, large commercial applications than anything. It is refrigerant number 422B as in boy. Again, it is an HFC refrigerant. It has 125 at 55%, 134A at 42%, and 600A, which is isobutane, at 3%. And the reason for the isobutane is for oil return. And as you can see, it has a very low percent of it in the blend, so that makes the blend non-flammable as formulated. And it is a non-ozone depleting refrigerant. Again, it has a A1 safety classification. It is a non-toxic, non-flammable refrigerant. It is compatible with any refrigeration oils that are in the compressor today. There's no reason to do a polyester oil change with Nu-22B. We have a AHRI 210-240 test that shows about a 4% loss in sensible capacity versus R22. The 210-240 testing is the same testing that air conditioning manufacturers do to get their SEER rating. So this is a third-party test. We have no input on the results, and it showed a 4% loss in sensible capacity, which is extremely low. Nothing you're going to be able to test out in the field. And at the end of the day, the customer is going to have the same comfort level and the same utility bill as they did with R22. NU-22B has the longest record of successful field performance testing. Again, it's been out for a very long time. Compatible with R22 hoses, gauges, so there's no specific tools for NU-22B. Any R22 tool that you're using today can be used with NU-22B. It's available in 25-pound disposables and 110-pound refillables on up to 1,000-pound refillables if you have a customer that is needing large amounts of refrigerant. The cylinder comes with a pressure temperature chart and 6 conversion labels. Each cylinder comes with a PT chart and 6 conversion labels, and there is a pressure temperature chart on the bottom of the box also. So here are just some applications that NU-22B is running in today. PTACs, heat pump PTACs, split systems, residential, commercial, mini splits, walk-ins, air dryers, panel coolers, large tonnage industrial process cooling, transport cooling, and spot cooling. So as you can see there, the size of the equipment really doesn't matter. It's the design of the equipment and if the equipment was working properly with R22. That's more critical than the size or the capacity of the system. So proper charging procedures. First, you need to qualify the system. Was the system originally designed for R22? That's critical. And uses a direct expansion metering device, whether it be a fixed metering device like a capillary tube or a piston or an expansion valve. Again, no flooded systems. System is operating free of leaks and no inherent problems like oil return or capacity issues. All of that must be addressed before doing any type of conversion, or it's going to perform just like it did before the conversion. And if you're not getting proper oil return, or you have improper airflow, or just some of those issues will make a conversion not successful. Recover and reclamation. You need to recover all of the R22. That way you're not mixing any 22 with NU-22B. And make sure you label that recovery cylinder and make sure that the refrigerant that is in that cylinder is the same refrigerant that you're putting in. That way you're not mixing refrigerants. R22 is worth some money today, so you definitely don't want to mix it or you're not going to be getting paid for it. System preparation. Make any necessary repairs prior to the system conversion. As a good service practice, replace the filter dryer. On a residential unit, replace the cores, the Schrader cores, and any O-ring in a commercial application, like on a liquid line solenoid, for example, that may have O-rings. Those O-rings will need to be replaced by new ones. There's not a specific O-ring for NU-22B. Just make sure you replace it with a new O-ring because it has swelled to that R22 rate, and any refrigerant that you convert to will leak around that O-ring. Leak test the system with dry nitrogen and pull the system down to 500 microns. That way you'll know that the system is leak-free and the moisture levels are low enough that the dryer can take over after that. It's time to charge the system. If you can, get a pre-conversion data. I know a lot of times you're going to be out there and the system's flat and you just don't know how it performed before with R22 in it. But if you have the luxury to get a conversion data that will really help you out after the conversion. Initially charge system to 95% of the R22 charge. So on a residential unit, that charge will be on the side of the condensing unit. You need to add your line sets. Depending on how the age of the condensing unit will depend on the length of the line set that the original charge was for. So you need to start out at 95% of that original R22 charge. NU-22B must be charged as a liquid, so the cylinder needs to be turned upside down or inverted. And again, the pressure temperature chart is on the bottom of that box. Charge through the high side port with the compressor off. And more than likely, you're going to be able to get the full charge, the 95% charge in there if you have the system in a deep vacuum and your cylinder temperature is 70, 80 degrees. Start the system and you need to let it run for a minimum of 20 to 30 minutes. This way the system will be stabilized before you start taking your superheat or subcooling measurements. Optimizing system charge, check system pressure, subcooling and superheat depending on the metering device. NU-22B pressure temperature chart must be used. You cannot use your R22 temperatures in the inside of your gauges. You need to use the NU-22B pressure temperature chart. If you're using digital gauges, you will need to look up the refrigerant number. And the refrigerant number for NU-22B is 422B as in boy. So make sure you use the NU-22B or the 422B pressure temperature chart, not your R22B, or not your R22 pressure temperature chart. If any additional NU-22B needs to be added, do it in 5% increments. Now, why do we say that? Is so you're slowly adding refrigerant to the system. Again, you don't want to overcharge it initially. It's easier to add more than to take it out. Yes, it may take a little bit longer, but in the long run, it's going to take less time if you do it right the first time. If you're exceeding 115% of that original charge, you're overcharging that system. On cool mornings, in the fall, in the spring, if you're charging systems, you need to be very careful that you're not overcharging that system. So if you're exceeding that 115%, you are overcharging the system. And give us a call if you can't figure it out, and we'll help you out on that. Operating characteristics versus R22. NU-22B's high pressures are about 3 pounds higher at 120 condensing. So on the high side, you're going to be about 3 pounds higher. NU-22B low side pressure is about 9 pounds lower at a 40 degree evaporator temperature. So the high side pressure is going to be very close to your R22 pressures. Your low side pressure is going to be about 9 pounds, 10 pounds lower than your R22 pressure. You're going to have about a 5% less amp draw and about a 15% lower discharge temperature on average. All of the non-chlorinated refrigerants have lower discharge temperatures than R22, so that's very normal. You may have a slightly longer run time, but you draw less amperage, and due to that slightly longer run time, you may have better dehumidification. Now, what I mean by longer run time is if it ran 10 hours a day, it might run 11 hours a day now. But again, at the end of the month, your utility bill is going to be the same. So system checklist, your target superheat with a fixed metering device will be determined by the outdoor temperature entering the condenser and the indoor wet bulb, just like you would do with R22 or R410A. This is on a residential system. Subcooling with expansion valve will be determined by manufacturer design. Depending on the SEER rating would depend on the subcooling. Typically a 13 SEER is anywhere from 10 to 15 degrees of subcooling. Your evaporator delta T will be determined by the relative humidity in the space being conditioned. So The higher the relative humidity, the lower that split or that delta T will be across that indoor coil. So make sure you complete the system ID label. Put one on the indoor, put one on the outdoor unit. If you're using more than 6 per cylinder, give us a call or go back to the wholesaler and make sure you've got enough conversion stickers that you can label the indoor and outdoor unit. So here are the top 10 asked questions from the Tech to Tech hotline. They're not in any order. So is NU-22B a drop-in replacement? Can I mix it with R22? It is not recommended to mix any refrigerants. You will not be able to utilize the pressure temperature chart because now you have created a new refrigerant, and mixed refrigerants are too costly for reclamation, so they either have to be separated or destroyed, so you will not be paid for that R22 that you thought was pure. So there are the three, some of the reasons that you do not want to mix refrigerants. There are plenty more. So number 2, can NU-22B be used in a refrigeration application? Yes. Years ago, when NU-22B was first developed, it was in more refrigeration applications than anything. But keep in mind, the lower the evaporator temperature, the lower the capacity of the refrigerant. So we have another refrigerant, One Shot, 422C is its refrigerant number, and it is a better refrigeration refrigerant than NU-22B. But you will need to change out the power element on the expansion valve. But you will actually gain a little capacity, refrigeration capacity over R22. One Shot is not to be used in an air conditioning application. Number 3, can I charge by just clearing sight glass or suction line swept back? Well, if you need to start out charging by weight, and you need to optimize the system by either superheat or subcooling, depending on the metering device. Again, if you initially charge the system until the sight glass fills up, especially on a cool day, you will overcharge that system. If you initially charge that system until the suction line starts to sweat back, more than likely you will overcharge that system. Suction line sweat back is determined by the humidity in the air. So if you're out west where single digit relative humidity is pretty common, you may not get the sweat back like you would in the Midwest on a 90-degree day in August. To avoid overcharging, do not attempt to clear the sight glass when charging a system with a 400 series blend, because it may separate inside that cavity of your glass depending on how large it is. So blends just normally bubble a little or flash in a sight glass. Number 4, if I convert my system to NU-22B and it has a leak, can I top it off without having to recover the full charge? Yes. NU-22B's glide is very low, around 5 degrees. The higher the glide of the refrigerant, like 407C is around 10, the more apt that the refrigerant could fractionate due to a leak in the system. And we're just not seeing that. So, we've been doing blends for 25 years now. And if they separated like early on, everybody thought they were going to separate in a system that is leaking, we would have heard of it by now. So we feel very comfortable in saying that you can top off a system if it has a leak. It's more critical that that system is charged in the liquid phase. If you vapor phase charge the system, then you will fractionate the cylinder and put higher pressure refrigerants in the system. Number 5, I see that NU-22B contains a hydrocarbon 600A. Does that mean it's flammable? No. NU-22B is a non-flammable refrigerant. Like I said early on, it only has 3% isobutane in the blend, so there's not enough of a flammable refrigerant to make the refrigerant as blended flammable. And our other products, Hot Shot 2, One Shot, are all A1 safety classification, non-toxic, non-flammable. Number 6, our pressures are still low with more Nu-22B than R22 in the system. You will run a lower suction pressure than you did with R22, around average about 9-10 pounds. If you're trying to charge the system to your R22 pressures, then you will overcharge the system. And it always charged by superheat with a fixed metering device and subcooling with an expansion valve. Number 7, do I need to flush the line set on every conversion? No. The only time you flush out line sets are if you had a compressor burnout or you're going from a mineral oil to a polyester oil. For example, if you're going from R22 to 410A and you're leaving the line sets in, you will need to flush out those line sets. If you're replacing a compressor and that compressor has polyester oil in it, then you will need to flush out the line sets. We have a line set flush clean shot. It comes with a charging tool, instructions, 5 and 10 pound containers. Number 8, how long will R22 replacements be available? As of today, there is no phase out, there is no phase down on any HFC blend. That may change, but for today, there is no phase down or phase out, so it is a long-term refrigerant. Number 9, do I need to change the liquid line filter dryer? We strongly recommend changing the liquid line filter dryer. Unless you have taken a pressure drop across that filter, you have no idea if it's restricted, partially restricted. They're very inexpensive. They will do a very good job of trapping contaminants and moisture in the system. So yes, it is very highly recommended to change the liquid line dryer. And equipment manufacturers recommend replacing filter dryers anytime service is performed on the system. Number 10, can I use my R22 gauges? Yes. You will need to use the Nu-22B pressure temperature chart because the temperatures on the interdial of your gauges will not, more than likely, will not have Nu-22B on them. They'll either have 22 or 410A. So yes, you can use your gauges, read pressure, go to your pressure temperature chart, convert that pressure to temperature. And again, if you're using digital gauges, you will need to use the 422B, that's Nu-22B's refrigerant number. ICOR support to you, free online literature, product overview literature, system conversion guidelines, safety data sheets, all of that can be downloaded and printed online, or if you're needing hard copies, we can send you hard copies. We have 2 apps. They're both free. The first app is ICOR Tech Tool app. It includes pressure temperature charts, product specifications, conversion guidelines, SDSs, videos, and where to buy Nu-22B. The next app is your ICOR Nu-22B slide chart app. If you're doing any residential work on systems that have fixed metering devices, this is a must. This is the only way you can determine what the target superheat should be for that particular condition when you're working on that system. We have free webinar training, just like we're doing today. If you have customers or if you have requests for training, we are very busy doing face-to-face training, so I would strongly suggest to try to get a webinar set up. Free tech-to-tech phone call assistance. The tech-to-tech phone number is on the bottom of the pressure temperature chart. It's a toll-free number. We are in Eastern time zone. Regular office hours are from 7:30 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. And we understand that systems break down after hours on the weekends. So if you do call the tech-to-tech phone number after hours or on the weekends, leave a voicemail. Explain that you're using Nu-22B and someone will get back with you. Our free tech-to-tech email, typically those are answered next day, but if you feel more comfortable in emailing a question, we have no problem with that. All right, it's time for questions. Let me bring them all up here. Okay, the first one is, how long is this product going to be on the market? Right now, it is a long-term refrigerant, no phase-out date. Why should I use this product instead of another alternative? NU-22B is the R22 direct replacement, no oil change, no component change, no line set change, and it has been out in the field longer than any other direct replacement. So it has a track record longer than any other alternative for R22. With NU-22B being a HFC blend, is there any delisting date due to GWPs? Yes, there is, but that is only in retail food application. You can go to the EPA and that will tell you what appliances you cannot use particular refrigerants in because they have high GWPs. But in a residential application, you can use NU-22B legally. That only pertains to retail food outlets like supermarkets, convenience stores, those types of applications. How much is a jug of NU-22B? Price range anywhere from $165 to $2.25. Just depends on where you're buying it and how much you are buying it. So it's very competitive priced. The tech-to-tech hours are 7:30 to 4:30 Monday through Friday Eastern Time. But again, if you have a question or a concern after hours, just call the number and leave a message and someone will call you back. Somebody's asking if this webinar will be posted. Yes, it will be posted on our website in the very near future. Explain fractionation. Okay. Fractionation is due to, in a system, if you have if a system has fractionated, it has a very small leak and the system has sit idle for a very long time, and more of the higher pressure refrigerants have escaped, leaving the lower pressure refrigerants behind. So if you take a sample of the refrigerant in that system and go to your pressure temperature chart, you will notice that the temperature pressure relationship is not correct. For example, if it's supposed to read 150 pressure at X amount temperature and you're only reading 140 pressure, then it has fractionated. But again, we're just not seeing that, so that's not a major concern. Okay, I got one here on expansion valves. I think what he's asking is if you can use NU-22B with large expansion valves. Yes. The only concern with expansion valves are large, like 40 ton and above, that are not balanced port. You may not, again, we're not seeing this, you know, across the board, but if you can't get your superheat down low enough from opening that valve up, then it's not sized right for NU-22B. But those are for extremely large valves, like 40 ton on up. If we replace a compressor, do we need to make sure it has POE oil, or can we run it with mineral oil? Yes, you can run it with mineral oil without any issues. You do not have to use POE oil, but most compressor manufacturers nowadays are charging their compressors with polyester oil. Do you find it necessary to replace a low pressure switch on a heat pump application during the low ambient situation. I'm not sure what the pressure switch is controlling. Just keep in mind that you're going to run about 10 pounds lower pressure on the low side than you would with R22. So if your pressure switch is a fixed switch and it is opening up, you may need to replace that, yes. But an adjustable switch, you could adjust that for NU-22B's lower pressures. Here's one, air conditioning with expansion valve 15 to 18. I think he's asking about superheat. Hold on just a second. Jumped ahead. Okay. Air conditioning with expansion 15 to 18. I think he's saying superheat. Does superheat still run at these superheat still? Whatever your R22 design superheat is what you need to dial it in with NU-22B. I'm not sure if I'm answering this question properly or not. You can email me more specifics if needed, but design superheat needs to be the same with NU-22B as it was with R22. Do you top off the system through the high side with the compressor off or low side? No, you need to top the system off with the compressor running on the low side. Just open and close your manifold. You'll be fine. You're not going to get any liquid into the compressor. Does NU-22B work with electronic expansion valves? Well, that would depend on the style, the age of the electronic expansion valve. Some valves are specific to R22, so no other refrigerant is going to work well with that valve. Some valves have a controller that you can change refrigerants. So depending on the age of that controller, it may or may not have NU-22B in it. Do any of the seals in the system need to be replaced? Yes. Any rubber, only rubber seals will need to be replaced in the system. Not Teflon, not paper gasketing, just rubber O-ring seals. Yes, evacuate the system. Evacuate your R22 and add NU-22B. No oil change required. That is correct. Do you or anyone make gauges with the correct temperature and pressure for NU-22B? JB Industries makes a gauge that you can purchase for NU-22B. They have a part number. Just ask your wholesaler to get a hold of them, and you can have NU-22B gauges. Can it be utilized in large capacity chillers? Well, that would depend if it's a direct expansion chiller or a flooded chiller. It will work in a direct expansion chiller, will not work in a flooded chiller. So any direct expansion system, NU-22B will work fine in. If we replace a compressor, will we lose the warranty if you use NU-22B or MO99 or any other replacement refrigerant? You can. Compressor manufacturers could deny warranty. We've been doing this for 25 years and have never had a warranty denied with one of our refrigerants in the system. So it is very unlikely that any compressor manufacturer will deny warranty using any replacement refrigerant. The gauge manufacturer was JB Industries. How long are they going to make R22 compressors? For a long time. There's millions of R22 compressors out in service today that, they're not all of them, but they're going to need to be replaced eventually. So compressor manufacturer would be able to answer that question better than I, but R22 compressors will be available for a long time. Will electronic leak detection work? Yes. Just make sure it is for an HFC refrigerant. But yes, any standard leak detection will work for NU-22B. Are there any issues with oil return when using long line sets? Well, that would depend on if the line set has a vertical rise. If it's horizontal, you won't have any issues. If it has a vertical rise, would depend on how long of a rise it is, and would depend on if it's trapped now. So again, you need to go back to the manufacturer, and they would be able to tell you if a particular line set is too long, even for R22. But if it was returning oil with R22, more than likely it's going to work with any of the replacement refrigerants. Do you see any downside to replacing R22 with NU-22B other than the rubber seals? No. That's all you have to do is replace the rubber seals. All the rest of the components are fine, and line sets are fine. Does the EPA still say a unit that has a leak must hold over 50 pounds before it is mandatory to fix? You're referring to leak rates. Any system that holds 50 pounds or more, you have to document the leak rate. Any leak should be fixed. Will new sealants work with NU-22B? I'm not sure what new sealants are. If you could email me that question again, I might be able to help you out. Do you have to recycle NU-22B? Yes, you do not want to vent any refrigerants, especially, there's no reason to vent any refrigerants. So yes, you can recycle NU-22B without any problems. All right, I think that is all the questions. One more coming in. According to Copeland, if you have a system originally using mineral oil, you can install a new compressor using POE oil without having to flush line sets. Is this still true for NU-22B? Well, if Copeland's saying that, I would go by their recommendations. Refrigerants, they don't care. So whatever the compressor manufacturer is saying, you can go back to them if you have problems. Do the O-rings in king valves need to be replaced in small split systems? Yes, if that king valve has an O-ring in it, it will leak around it. So the ones that do have O-rings will need to be replaced. How long are the NU-22B dry units will be available? Not very long. If you can find one today, you'd be very lucky. Those are gone, are going away. So if you want to stock up on them, you might want to get your hands on them today. Is NU-22B compatible with new Calgon Easy Seal? We don't recommend anything in a system besides refrigerant and oil. I would get a hold of new Calgon. They would be more capable of answering that question than we would. Do you need to replace line sets after charging NU-22B? No. You can keep your original R22 line sets without any issues. Is it okay to use it with acid away for compressor burnouts? Again, you need to get a hold of the compressor manufacturer. We recommend only refrigerant and oil in the system. What about internal seals in line sets with compressor fitting that can't be replaced? I am not sure. Internal seals in line sets with oh, okay. If it's a rubber seal, yes, it will need to be replaced. I understand what you're saying now. If it is a Teflon seal, no, just rubber. Do you have to flush out the line sets? If you're not changing oils, you do not have to flush out the line sets. So if you're just recovering the 22, doing your maintenance, charging it up with new 22B, the line sets will be fine. You do not have to flush it out. All right, I think that might be it. We'll wait here just a second. On the O-ring issue, I would strongly recommend to replace them. It may not leak right away, it may not leak tomorrow, but eventually it will leak around that O-ring. So I would strongly recommend to replace any O-ring that is in the system. And that's not specific to new 22B. That is any replacement refrigerant that you go with. All right, I think that is it. I appreciate everyone's time today. We will be having more webinars. We have one next week, and in the month of May, we are setting them up, and you will be getting emails telling you when those dates are. So if you want to watch another one or have someone that is looking for more information on new 22B, pass that information on to them. We would love to have everybody up to speed and know how to properly charge a system before the season hits. So again, thank you everyone. Have a good day, have a good week, and we'll talk to you later.